Good morning, I'm James Walsh, the Mancunian Birder. You find me here in Timperley in the south of Greater Manchester, and this autumn, October 2018, Timperley has become the birding capital of Greater Manchester due to the presence of a juvenile rose-coloured starling, also known as a Rosy Starling. It's only the second time one's been seen in Greater Manchester, and it's been attracting flocks of bird watchers because it should be in somewhere like Afghanistan. It's a bird of southeastern Europe and Asia, and it's miles off course. This summer there's been an eruption of rose-coloured starlings, and they've gone further west into Europe, so it has been a good year for rose-coloured starlings, but it's very unusual to see one in the suburbs of Greater Manchester.
All right, isn't it?
This is the area of Timperley where the rose-coloured starling's being seen. It's a long way from Afghanistan, where this bird should probably be at the moment. It's been causing a lot of interest amongst the locals, who are wondering why there's so many people wandering around with anoraks and binoculars and telescopes and cameras around this quiet suburban area. This has been quite an emotional situation for me. It's an area where I grew up and where I've done a lot of my birding, where I started doing bird watching, and yeah, it's a bit of a mad situation. So yeah, this is probably one of the most exciting things that's happened in Timperley for a while, and Timperley's fairly notorious for not a lot ever really happening. We've had Frank Sidebottom's a famous resident, Ian Brown, the former frontman of the Stone Roses, and the Bee Gees all lived here, but generally it's a fairly quiet suburban place. But there's been hundreds of bird watchers flocking here, watching the rose-coloured starling.
Oh, fantastic view. That's the best view I've had, really, on the roof. Oh, fantastic. Will I get that through with your phone camera? So go.
And while we're here, I'd like to take this opportunity to take you on a virtual tour of the wildlife sites of the Altrincham and Timperley area. This is James Walsh, the Mancunian Birder, here at the Altrincham Wetlands Complex. This is King George V Pool, South Manchester, and just like to introduce you to a place where I started bird watching really. This is one of my very first local patches where I would come as a kid, breeding great crested grebes. We've had breeding potsherds here in the past. Recently there's been a little egret. And yeah, this was, as a child, this was a place where I would come and get my first experiences bird watching, making notes, counting birds, and generally enjoying being in nature. So this place is called, at the moment it's called King George V Pool. It's a lake near Altrincham, and yeah, this is where I had my formative years bird watching. A lot of experiences, learning how to take notes, learning how to count birds, learning how to identify birds. Just a great place to get used to all the resident and commoner birds that we have in suburban Manchester. This is also the site that I've looked at as a formal ecologist with the Greater Manchester Ecology Unit, looking at the flora and fauna, also looking at the site as a site of biological importance. Here we have the yellow flag iris, and it's also a very good site for bats, dragonflies and damselflies. This network of wetland sites on the outskirts of Altrincham, it's a brilliant place for nesting the water birds, the moorhens, the mute swan, the great crested grebe. This year we've got 3 summer plumage little grebes, so they look like they might be nesting here. Also some years we have the diving ducks, tufted duck and pochard breeding here, so yeah, it's a perfect site for the water birds to breed, and it's a great complex of wetlands. This site is also one of the first sites where I've ever seen a kingfisher. It's a good place for them to be fishing. There's Timperley Brook runs through where I've also seen kingfishers, so it's obviously a network where they breed, and especially in the late summer you can see the young birds, they love it on here. This is Timperley Moats, another of the important wetland habitats that make up this complex. It's another place where you can see the woodland birds, woodpeckers, nuthatchers, tree creepers, tits, warblers, thrushes. It's a beautiful place to relax and be amongst nature. And after a hard day's birding, make sure you visit the old hall for a nice pint. Cheers.